Hey everyone, and welcome. We're about to jump into a really wild idea, one that could completely change how we make decisions in companies, online communities, maybe even entire countries. It's called Futarchy, and the core idea is simple but powerful. What if we replaced our votes with bets? Okay, let's get into it. Now, on this channel, we usually look at apps and practical tools you can use. But today's a little different. We're doing a special deep dive. This comes straight from some really fascinating research by Claude, who's been digging deep into governance and found an idea that could seriously shape our future. So here's the game plan. First, we're going to talk about why our current voting systems are fundamentally flawed. Then we'll ask, why on earth should we trust bettors? From there, we'll get into the core philosophy of Futarchy, look at how these decision markets actually work, and finally, we'll uncover the real game changer behind all of this. All right, let's kick things off with the big problem Futarchy is trying to solve. And this is something that anyone in the world of crypto and DAOs knows all too well. You've been there, right? I mean, we all have. You're in a group with a ton of smart, capable people, and yet somehow the final decision is just dumb. It happens in boardrooms, it happens online. It's this huge, frustrating failure to actually use the collective intelligence that's sitting right there in the room. In crypto, this problem is crystal clear with coin voting. I mean, on the surface, one token, one vote sounds democratic, right? But in reality, it's a mess. If you only hold a few tokens, why would you spend hours researching a complex proposal when your vote is basically meaningless? You wouldn't. That apathy lets a few huge whales call all the shots. And it gets worse. People can literally borrow a giant bag of tokens, force a vote their way, and then just walk away, leaving minority owners totally unprotected. Okay, so if voting is that broken, why is betting the answer? Well, it turns out that when it comes to gathering up all the available information and finding the truth, markets have an absolutely incredible track record. And the evidence for this is it's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, look at this. You've got markets at the racetrack that consistently beat the so-called expert handicappers. Prediction markets for elections are often way more accurate than all the professional polls. And get this one's my favorite. The market for orange juice futures has a better record of predicting the weather in Florida than the actual National Weather Service. But the most powerful example, by far, comes from the Challenger space shuttle disaster. 16 minutes after the tragedy, that's all it took for the stock market to figure out which company was responsible for the faulty part. The stock for Morton Vehicle cratered, while every other contractor recovered. 16 minutes. The official government investigation to reach that same exact conclusion, it took 4 months. That's the power we're talking about. So the big question is, how do we harness that power for making group decisions? Well, that brings us to the core philosophy of Futarchy, and it's summed up in this one simple but brilliant phrase. This comes from the economist Robin Hanson, and the idea is just so elegant. We should use voting to decide what we want, our shared goals, our values. We want our organization to be more profitable. But when it comes to figuring out the best way to actually achieve that goal, our beliefs about strategy and policy, we shouldn't vote, we should bet. And you can see the difference right here. With a traditional vote, everything's a tangled mess. You vote for a person or a party hoping they'll achieve your goal, using a strategy you might only sort of agree with. Futarchy it cleanly splits them apart. The community gets together and votes on the goal, like, let's maximize our token price by the end of the year. Then, the market takes over to bet on which specific proposal is most likely to make that happen. Okay, so this is where it gets really, really cool. How does this betting actually work? Let's pop the hood and take a look at the engine that actually powers this whole system. It all runs on something called a conditional prediction market. Now, don't let the name scare you. It's actually a pretty simple concept. Think of it like creating two parallel universes. There's universe A, where a proposal passes, and universe B, where it fails. The market is just traders betting on which of those two universes will have a better outcome, based on the goal we set. The whole process is super straightforward, just 4 steps. 1, somebody makes a proposal. 2, the system instantly creates those two markets, the pass market and the fail market. 3, traders who have skin in the game start betting on the outcome they believe will be better. And 4, here's the magic. The decision is completely automatic. Whichever market, pass or fail, has a higher price, that's the outcome that gets implemented. That's it. The market literally makes the decision for us. So this all sounds pretty amazing in theory, right? But the thing is, it's not a theory anymore. And the biggest reason why this matters, it goes way beyond just making smarter decisions.
Yeah, this is not science fiction. There's a project called MetaDAO that has already used this exact Futarchy system to execute 96 real-world proposals. We're talking about real organizations making real decisions about things like protocol fees and how to distribute revenue, all decided by bets, not votes. This stuff is being battle-tested as we speak.
Now, let's be real for a second. Is it perfect? Of course not. There are some serious challenges to figure out. Like, what metric do we even bet on? For a country, is it GDP? Or is it something like happiness? What's to stop a super rich person from trying to manipulate the market? And what happens if not enough people show up to trade? These are the tough questions that have to be solved.
But even with those challenges, we have to talk about the real goal here. Because the true endgame, the thing that makes this a potential revolution, isn't just about making smarter decisions. It's about creating something called trustless joint ownership. And this idea gets right to the very heart of what crypto is supposed to be about.
Here's why this matters so much. In a normal DAO with coin voting, the majority can just decide to screw over the minority. They can vote to drain the treasury or change the rules in their favor. Your ownership is only as safe as the goodwill of the biggest token holders. But in Futarchy, the market itself is your bodyguard. Any proposal that would actually destroy value becomes incredibly profitable to bet against. It gives you a way to defend your stake, making your ownership real and secure, without having to trust a single other person in the group.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Think back to the last big group decision you were a part of. Got it? Okay. Now imagine that instead of just raising your hand or clicking a button, you had to pull out your wallet and put your own hard-earned money on the line. Would you have chosen differently? That little thought experiment, that's exactly why Futurarchy might just be the future.